Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Donald Trump sweeps to victory in a stunning comeback in the US presidential polls, becomes the first after Grover Cleveland to win non-consecutive presidential terms in the US. Donald Trump delivers victory speech, says he will stop wars and not start new ones. World leaders congratulate Donald Trump on his victory. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he looks forward to further strengthening the India-US partnership. Let's get you now the latest on the US presidential polls. Donald Trump has swept to victory in a stunning comeback and pledged to heal the country on Wednesday, with media projections putting him on top, beating Kamala Harris. The American media called the election in his favor, and soon Donald Trump delivered a victory speech. As jubilant supporters cheered and chanted USA, Trump took to the stage at his campaign headquarters in Florida along with his wife Melania and several of his children. In his victory speech, Donald Trump said that he believed this was the greatest political movement ever.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Trump also thanked Americans for electing him the 47th US president and vowed that this will be the golden age of America.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Trump also highlighted Republicans' extraordinary win in the swing states.
The battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places. Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. We are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that.
Trump said that it was America's powerful mandate that Republicans have taken control of the U.S.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much.
He also congratulated U.S. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, calling him a man of courage.
I want to be the first to congratulate our great, now I can say, Vice President-elect of the United States, J.D. Vance. And his absolutely remarkable and beautiful wife, Usha Vance. And he is a feisty guy, isn't he? You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp. And you know, the enemy camp is certain networks. And a lot of people don't like to, sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay. Which one? CNN, MSDNC? He'll say, all right, thank you very much.
DD India's Amritpal Singh reports from Palm Beach, where Trump delivered his victory speech.
A victory party, or the election watch party as it's known, of Donald Trump is taking place here inside the convention center. While there are huge crowds inside the convention center to listen to Donald Trump, but even as he speaks live out on the streets here, there is a festive mood. There are people who have gathered, primarily Republican supporters who have gathered. It is their moment of joy. It is their moment of victory, as American networks have now called in the U.S. election in favor of Donald Trump.
It was the most amazing experience of my life. The energy in that room cannot be matched by anything else. It was awesome.
We finally have someone who will take responsibility for his actions.
The last 4 years have been so horrible for the average American, with the rising inflation, with these wide open borders and the safety concerns, with the downfall of our education system, already worse, in a worse space than it was, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago. Like, we're not seeing the changes that we expected to see.
It's been a really, really long and tough campaign for Donald Trump and his running mate, and it has finally come to fruition, which the Republican supporters are enjoying to the hilt. With cameraman Sanjay Jena, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at West Palm Beach.
And joining us now for Perspective is Balaji Chandramohan. He is a research scholar with Madras University in India. Such a pleasure to have you, Balaji, on DD India. It's all concluded much sooner than we had imagined. Let's get straight to the point. What swung it for Trump?
The thing which actually swung for Trump was that he was able to project himself as a much more decisive leader for the United States and for the world. And that was actually the main reason why the people of United States decided to vote for Trump again. I think the Democrats took things for granted. They were a little bit more overconfident, that was actually predicted by their former President Bill Clinton, who had to actually fight all his lifetime against the Republicans. He knows that don't take things for granted. That's what actually the thing which actually the Democrats did. That's what the reason why Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 to Trump. That's why the reason Kamala Harris lost in 2034. And that's why the reason why, even for example, John Kerry lost himself in 2004. And that's why Al Gore lost in 2000. So what Bill Clinton said was exactly correct. The former Democratic President Bill Clinton, he said it exactly correct. Don't take things for granted. That's the reason why a little bit more complacence on the part of the Democrats. That's why they actually swing it for the Republicans, actually.
But why do you think complacency had set in? Because she got into the race much later. She had just a couple of months to campaign. So what do you think went wrong as far as the Harris campaign is concerned? What made them take things for granted?
I think there are two things. One is that related to policy and the other one is related to politics. I think the Joe Biden, she had to inherit a lot from Joe Biden. So whatever the mismanagement, the political policy mismanagement with the Joe Biden administration did, that very much actually to a larger extent had to be inherited by Kamala Harris. But when it comes to the actual campaigning, I think you have to understand that Kamala Harris is not actually a seasoned politician like Bill Clinton. Now, Bill Clinton was actually the Democrat who had to occupy the two times the presidency in the US against a very strong Republicans, and even the Barack Obama for that matter. So these people were seasoned politicians to a larger extent. I think she actually misread the Americans to a larger extent. She did not actually help things in a way that Joe Biden had to lead the campaign in between. Actually, the presidency was for Joe Biden and Trump. Let's get that clear. But in between, Kamala Harris came up and she did not actually manage things in a proper way. And that was the reason why the clock was set back for the Democrats, so that the Republicans would come and occupy the White House again.
Balaji, why do you think the pollsters went wrong? We saw that in 2016, the pollsters gave 95% chance to Hillary Clinton winning, though she had much more in terms of popular vote, 3 million more than Trump did, but she finally lost in the battleground states. So pollsters going wrong again. Why do you think that happened?
So pollsters go wrong. Actually, see, what pollsters do when it comes to the political sampling or the political poll prediction, they take sample of very few people. And you can't actually, in a country like America, let's get it very clear, it's actually a country as big as anything. And with that kind of population, how come you expect the pollsters to get it right? I don't think that, even in India, I don't think that pollsters get it right. I mean, like in terms of population, India might be a much larger population than the United States. But in terms of geography, the US is actually much larger than India. So in that case, I think the pollsters would most of the times get it wrong. Actually, it's not actually a mistake of the pollsters it's actually the person who is running the office. They need to get things right. I think the sole blame has to go with the Democrats, not with the pollsters or anything else. And by the way, Trump was the main reason why he could actually win. Actually, the Americans is actually now the only superpower, though China might claim it. The reason why they chose Trump over Harris was a simple fact that they actually saw Trump as a very strong person who would deal with the problems and the challenges that America is flying both internally and much more externally. In that way, Kamala Harris lost a little bit.
Okay. Balaji, towards the end, what does a Trump presidency mean for the United States, for India and for the world?
Well, for United States, it's going to again be as a power which could be reckoned with. For example, Joe Biden, for example, was supposed to be in that manner, but he actually had to deal with a lot of fiascos, starting from Afghanistan, where he was an expert, Russia-Ukraine war, and the Israel-Iran war, and in also containing China. When it comes to India, we actually welcome our old friend, because our Prime Minister Modi is a good friend of Donald Trump. In that way, we actually welcome him again, and we could see an enhanced strategic partnership and strategic alliances with the United States. And as far as the world is concerned, we may actually move into a kind of a situation where India and the United States might actually deal with much bigger threats which are actually threatening the international order. And in that way, Trump will join bandwagon with India.
Right, we leave it at that. Balaji, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us on the win of Donald Trump in the US presidential elections. Time for us to take a breather on DD India Live. Coming up in a while, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in Canberra. IPL 2025 mega auction to be held on the 24th and 25th of November.
राजा आओ आओ आयो। ये देखो मैसेज, कहते हैं वीडियो लाइक करके 500 रुपया रोज कमाओ। बस पहले थोड़ा पैसा दे के ललचाएंगे, फिर बोलेंगे कि और कमाना है तो पैसा भरो। हम दिन भर चूना लगाते हैं और ये लोग हम ही को चूना लगाने चले हैं। पान वाला हूँ, मूर्ख नहीं हूँ। याद रहे, यूपीआई कहता है कि अगर कोई आसान कमाई का लालच दे तो कहो मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ।
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Donald Trump on his historic election victory. PM Modi, in a social media post on X, said that he looks forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Together, let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity. Congratulatory messages are pouring in over President-elect Donald Trump's win over Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer extended his congratulations for the election victory after the Republican claimed victory in the US presidential election. Taking to X, Starmer said, "Congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your history and, in fact, historic election victory. I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. As the closest of allies, we stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of our shared values of freedom, democracy and enterprise. From growth and security to innovation and technology, I know that the UK-US special relationship will continue to prosper on both sides of the Atlantic for years to come." German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also congratulated Donald Trump on winning the US presidential election on Wednesday, saying the two countries would continue to work together to benefit their citizens. He said, and I quote, "I congratulate Donald Trump on his election as US president. For a long time, Germany and the US have been working together successfully promoting prosperity and freedom on both sides of the Atlantic. We will continue to do so for the well-being of our citizens." European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also offered well wishes, calling the US and EU more than just allies. She said, "I warmly congratulate Donald J. Trump. The EU and the US are more than just allies. We are bound by a true partnership between our people, uniting 800 million citizens. So let's work together on a strong transatlantic agenda that keeps delivering for them." Meanwhile, NATO chief Mark Rutte congratulated Trump, noting the alliance's commitment to increased military spending. He said, and I quote, "I just congratulated Donald Trump on his election as President of the United States. His leadership will again be key to keeping our alliance strong. I look forward to working with him again to advance peace through strength through NATO." Cedric Richmond, Harris campaign co-chair, has told a watch party at Howard University in Washington, D.C. that Kamala Harris will not address her supporters on election night. Crowds of Harris's supporters dispersed from Howard University after the announcement that her speech would be delayed until the following day. Former US President Donald Trump has declared himself the victor of the US presidential elections. And joining us with more reactions coming from Europe is DW correspondent Chiponda Chembulu in Berlin. Chiponda, in terms of reception from Europe, what more can we expect?
Thanks for having me. Well, for many here in Europe, a Trump victory is, of course, very disappointing, especially here in Germany. And there's two major reasons for that. There's the war in Ukraine and, of course, what future trade relations between the EU and the US could be. Now, when it comes to the war in Ukraine, Brussels has been able to count on Washington to deliver much needed military aid to Kiev as Ukraine defends itself in the war against Russia. And that is something that could change with a Trump administration. Now, Republicans have been against providing aid to Ukraine, so of course it could mean that the EU will need to step up its efforts And that, of course, would be very expensive. And of course, there's also the prospect of tariffs. Now, Trump has said he would introduce tariffs of 20% on European goods. Now, that is, of course, something that would especially affect Germany, which is Europe's biggest economy. The US was the biggest export market for German goods last year.
So what's being done in Europe to prepare for a Trump presidency now that we know that he's in for a second term?
Well, there are reports that the EU may have also prepared potential tariffs with which the bloc could retaliate with. But of course, whether that will be effective enough remains to be seen, because during his first presidency, Trump preferred to deal with EU governments separately rather than speak with Brussels. Now, that's a strategy that he could use once again to weaken the influence that Brussels has. So a lot of how Europe responds will depend on how and whether the EU is willing to work together, or some governments prefer to negotiate with Washington on their own. And it's also important to remember that EU leaders are not being caught by surprise like they were during the first Trump presidency. They have some experience dealing with Trump already, so things could be different this time around.
Also, thanks in fact for joining us with that. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Wednesday in Canberra. They discussed ways to deepen the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership between both the countries. During the meeting, Jaishankar also conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greetings to Albanese. The minister is on an official visit to Australia from the 3rd to the 7th of November. Pakistan's most populated province of Punjab on Wednesday ordered closure of schools due to heavy smog in the city. Authorities have shifted classes to online learning until the 17th of November as the country battles record air pollution. Officials have set up a smog war room to tackle severe pollution. In Lahore, primary schools have been closed as air quality spiked above 1,000 at several areas. Half of the staff in public and private offices are also advised to work remotely. Delegates at the International Solar Alliance were introduced to India's innovative agrivoltaics model, blending agriculture with solar energy. Visiting a farm near Delhi, they saw how India is maximizing land use for food and energy. This approach highlights India's commitment to sustainable growth and balanced development.
Delegates at the International Solar Alliance recently experienced India's innovative approach to sustainability. They visited an agrivoltaics farm on the outskirts of New Delhi in Najafgarh. Managed by the India Agrivoltaics Alliance, this farm demonstrates India is blending agriculture with solar energy production to address its growing need for sustainable practices. Agrivoltaics is a dual-use system where solar panels are elevated to allow crops to grow beneath them. This approach maximizes land usage by combining agriculture and energy production. The panels are mounted on raised structures with walkways, which enable easy maintenance while allowing uninterrupted farming activities. Crops like cabbage are grown between the panel rows using interspace cropping to optimize land. Advanced software plays a role here too, modeling light and shade patterns to ensure crops receive right amount of sunlight, crucial for yield.
You continue producing the food and you're also producing energy. And I've actually been discussing with him and saying, but I think you could even do better. For example, if you used hydroponics, so where you can have different levels of crop, and that would reduce the time you actually take to recoup the money. So it is an appropriate technology. When properly used, you can actually, he's also employing a number of people. He's producing food, he's producing energy, he's employing people, and then it fades into his other enterprise.
India faces a delicate balancing act between food security and energy needs. With food demand expected to rise sharply by 2050, the need for farmland is pressing. At the same time, the land required for solar and wind power to reach net zero goals is immense. In the pursuit of sustainability, India's innovative agri-voltaics approach offers a promising path by carefully balancing food and energy needs. India can lead the way in sustainable growth, setting an example for the world in achieving food security and energy independence. With camera person Gaurav Giri, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Najafgarh, Delhi.
Sports news now. Indian Premier League 2025 mega auction is going to be held on the 24th and 25th of November in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. The event, scheduled at the Abadi Al Johar Arena, marks the second consecutive year the auction has moved overseas following Dubai's hosting in 2024. The list includes 320 capped players, 1,224 uncapped players and 30 players from associate nations. Indian Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Suhail Ajaz Khan, welcomed the development, describing it as historic first for Saudi-India relations. The first snowfall has been recorded on Japan's Mount Fuji following a record-breaking delay. The appearance of a snow cap on the iconic mountain came on Wednesday. It was the latest snowfall recorded since records began 130 years ago, following a particularly warm autumn. And that's it in this edition of DD India Live. Do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.